First up, I'd like to please invite on stage our session moderator, the one who's spearheading the session, none other than Amit Khanna from AKDA. So Amit, let's have you firstly on stage. Let me please invite Rudraksh Charan from 42mm Architecture, Krish Kothari from KKD Studio, Amrita Guha from Untitled Design Consultants, and Rupesh Baid from And Design Co. And let's welcome all of our speakers here.
Before we start, I just want to get a sense of the lay of the land that we're working with. So how many people here are architects, designers, something to do with the design field? If I can just have a show of hands. Oh, good, nearly all of them, right? So before we get going, I just want to sort of congratulate everybody in this room because you are the 0.001%. You've all made it through design school. You've all built a couple of projects, you did internships, then you maybe started your own practice, built a team, started a business, went on, got projects, etc., 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 and now you're all here. You've made it to the top of a profession that is very unforgiving. It doesn't take any prisoners, and it's a very hard business to do in a country like India. And here we have people who have really aced it, right? So the purpose of this discussion is to basically pick their brains as to how they managed to get to this point in their business, what are the challenges they faced, and how did they overcome them. And I'm going to encourage everybody here to have their questions ready, because I would want you to pick their brains and ask them whatever it is that you think is something that you need in your practice or your life, right? So be prepared. I will come to you in about 20 minutes or so. I'm going to start with Amrita, because she's center stage and she's the only woman on the panel. Amrita is the founding partner at Untitled Design, and they're a multidisciplinary design studio. So Amrita, you're a woman in a man's profession. You said that before we started the talk, right? Why don't you take us through the journey of how difficult that was to build a brand and build a business in an industry which is fundamentally male-dominated?
So I would say the journey has been enriching at the same time, and it's not been easy to create a space for ourselves, which primarily, as you said, it definitely was at a point hugely male-dominated, and we've had our challenges. It's been more than 2 decades of us in our practice, which has architecture, primarily interiors, and we do have a product design which is called Fergonomics. The challenge has been also the fact that we practice in Delhi, which is pretty patriarchal society, if I were to say. And I'm a Bengali, hailing, born and brought up in Calcutta, which is a completely matriarchal society. So having grown up in Calcutta and assuming that, this is how it is going to be, it was definitely a rude shock when you realize that even if you give a presentation and you are assertive, the assertive factor would be taken as aggressive in more than one occasion. And negotiations were always a very big challenge, huge challenge, because unlike my fellow participants, I don't know if I can say this, but we are not in a position to tell my client, let's say, let's go out for a drink and talk about how we approach the financial aspect of this project. So that has definitely been a challenge. Shattering the glass ceiling is not easy. I mean, it takes time. It also takes people around you to be in the same wavelength and think of it in the same manner as you do. And not every client who comes to you would be in your shoes to think that way.
So, carrying forward from that, Rudraksh, obviously Amrita thinks that you go out for a drink and settle the score with the client. To what extent is that true? What extent is business development a function of socializing? And is that something, an extracurricular skill that an architect needs to have?
I think any entrepreneur needs to have the skill to be able to soften the relationship between the consultant and the client, because they need to be able to express their feelings, even if it is in terms of their requirements or their inhibitions or their apprehensions. And the more you clarify, the better it is going to be. Answering Amrita's question, it could be awkward for a lady to propose to one of her male clients to go out for a drink and talk it out, but I think it's going to be even weirder for a man to ask a client who is a lady if whether we could take her out for a drink to settle and soften it out. Amrita, I would like to bring this to your notice that 90% of the students in architecture school are girls these days, so it's not a male-dominated profession anymore. Yeah, I think, any of you architecture students? Yeah, how many boys in a batch of how many? Is it almost equal? No. More girls, more boys. I think that's the case, because I've been interviewing a lot of fresh talent, and I've realized there's so much more. That's my opinion.
Yeah. So, Rupesh, carrying on from what he said, retaining talent is a huge part of being able to run a successful business, right? So, what do you do to, basically from the interview process to making sure somebody stays on during probation, filtering out people, that you don't think you need, and then eventually having senior people help you. So tell us a little bit about how you manage that. Do you think you need to put in place, apart from fostering creativity, apart from breaking through the glass ceiling, etc.? You need to have certain basic fundamental systems in place. So could you talk us through some of those?
So I think in terms of the systems that you need to have in an office, again, there are multiple systems that we can talk about here, but with respect to people, I think what's very important is as your organization gets larger, you need to still maintain a flat hierarchy structure. It shouldn't be that like a supervisor needs to go to an assistant project manager who then goes to a project manager and then talks to my right hand and then comes to me. Supervisor can call me even at 12 o'clock at night. If you keep a flat structure in your organization, yes, you as a founder would probably have to work a bit more, but everybody kind of operates within this close-knit circle and the overall outcome is better. Because if you start creating too many layers for everyone, then the people who you started working with initially will feel too distant from you, and then you've kind of created that culture gap in your firm. So it's something I don't really recommend doing with people. Like I still go to sites regularly, not just with my projects guys and my designers, but even with my supervisors, and I sit with them for half an hour. I go have a cigarette with them, I drink chai with them, I talk to them about their life. It's very important to make sure that everyone from the top of the food chain to the bottom of the food chain is well nourished in your organization, and that's how you can grow sustainably. I think that's a very important thing with regards to retaining people.
So picking up from your aspect about leadership, right? So Amrita, when you talk about running a firm, right? Obviously you can't do everything, right? And I think one of the learnings that happens very quickly as a young person is that you stop trying to make everything perfect yourself and you start trusting other people to do it, right? So what is a key point about your leadership?
So that is one aspect we are still stumbling over, I have to say. I am, as far as my business partner Joya is concerned, she feels I still have to let go of the rein, and which I haven't been able to cut the umbilical cord as yet. And I'm obsessed about, I'm quite anal and obsessed about detailing. And I feel less is more. The lesser number of projects you do, but if you're able to value add, I think I get a peaceful sleep at night. For me, that's the key. That's the reason why I wake up in the morning and go to work. It's less projects, it's value over the number game. That has always been the way we've practiced. But definitely, to answer your question, mentoring, I think, is very, very crucial, because you have to, it's not possible if we are doing, let's say, 20 to 25 projects. And also we are doing product design, which varies from even, we could be doing furniture, we could be doing installation, and we do a lot of craft-based work. And we have craftsperson from all over the country coming, staying with us in our factory. It's not easy. It's not easy handling craftspeople to begin with. And the mentoring goes a long way, because that's how you build a community around yourself. That's what my family is. I mean, pretty much the larger part of the day, it's with them that I am spending time. So unless and until you feel you, sort of empower them, and you make them feel that this is all of us together sailing in the same boat, it's not going to happen. It definitely is. I am also learning. Every day is new, and the retaining factor is definitely a challenge in our, in our organization, which I think a lot of us are facing now. But every day is a new day, and we learn from our mistakes.
I'm going to pick up on empowerment, right? Because that, I think, is essential for you to grow as a business. And Rudraksh, if you are, if you are trying to run a project, obviously, like she said, you can't do everything yourself. You have to make sure there are chains of people around you who are focused at the same goal. So how do you build that momentum around a practice that, okay, this is the project, this is what we need to achieve, we are going to get there using this?
So I can answer this question in from 2 points of view. One is my practice's point of view. The other could be a more objective point of view. So if I take Amrita's case, I would say the practice is probably an essence of Amrita and Joya as two individuals in terms of their bias, their aesthetic, their approach, their sensibility, which is perfectly fine, because she wants it a particular way, which whether it is right or wrong, objective, subjective is a secondary thing, but that is her way. And if somebody is coming to her, it's because they want it her way, right? The second way would be to think of a practice which is independent of the individual, where the practice itself is a consciousness, and we could look at the practice where the design bit is done by a consciousness, and the production of the design is done through a process, right? So I think the two critical aspects of running a practice which is independent of an individual is to be able to build a consciousness. The consciousness is going to be on the basis of a philosophy. The philosophy is going to be flexible enough to be able to take other people's inputs in it. So there will be a way to address things. There's going to be a pool of data of individuals which other people could tap into the studio to be able to get solutions to. And that consciousness will start producing its own kind of work, and that is not going to be an individual's style or an individual's bias. It's going to be a collection of multiple people's bias. So it's going to be a core design team which could grow and grow and grow, and whenever a new person comes in, he gets inducted into the team, and then they start designing something, they start taking assistance from the team to be able to start developing the design, you know. And once the design is developed, then you have a strict, proper, inclusive process to be able to execute the design process, and then obviously somebody else is going to execute it. So I think that's how.
So the founder's role is to build the consciousness and the process.
It could be the founder, it could be, it could be the people who have been associated, because I honestly feel employees, associates, you know, they are not married to the promoters. They're never going to stick, or not all of them going to stick for the rest of their lives, okay? And it is not healthy for them to stick for the rest of their lives. They have to move on, right? Now, I always tell my employees, you know, if you leave in 2 years, it's going to cause me problem, but if you leave in 4 years, it's going to cause me more problem. So do I want you to stay for 2 years, or do I want you to stay for 4 years? Now, if you have already identified that, there is a clear honesty between you and the employee in terms of what is it that you want. I want to invest a year into you to be able to train you on a project, and I want at least you to be able to contribute on one more project. I think it's a very fair ask, and then if they wish to continue, they can continue. If they don't wish to continue and they have a better proposition, why will I stop them from going somewhere where they are getting a better proposition? So I think there has to be this very sensible consciousness, and if we can create a consciousness, it's very simple. You've trained a person for 3 years, they have come from an X stage to a Y stage. I tell them, okay, recruit another person, replace yourself, and go. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So this is a huge issue. I'm sure all studios here would agree with us that when you have a fresh person coming in, you need to invest in them to train. And I'm sure it's not solely an architectural issue, it's a global issue when it comes to all industries. But then that brings us to a very critical point. How do you scale an architectural business in a country like India, where A, you don't have an educational system providing you with a steady stream of regular talent, and B, you have to contend with the fact that anybody who's remotely talented will want to do what you're doing and will not want to be an employee in your organization. So Rupesh, answer this please for us. How do you scale in an environment when people want to leave and want to become you?
And especially when you're doing personal houses, I feel touch and feel important, which I told yesterday. Then basically touch, feel, you have to connect with the people, like people whom you want to be working for actually. So you cannot work remotely and work. Definitely that is important to connection, because I don't like to work like that if you ask me. And any employee working for me doesn't work for me. So I think for me, it has to be with me, along with me, and then work together.
Okay. So Krish, maybe you can answer because Rupesh tried to evade it, but maybe you can help me as to how do you retain somebody and help them become part of a larger business? Is it possible to have the lawyer-based approach or the accounting-based approach towards architectural practices where the employee has a significant future within your practice?
It's a very, very good question that you've asked, and I can only tell you what we do at our firm. I can't really give you a 1 + 1 = 2 answer, because there isn't. We incentivize them very well financially, first thing. Second thing is, in the interviews, I asked them, I said, what value can I add to your life? Yes, you'll work here. Yes, you'll earn. Yes, you'll contribute. But what value can I add to your life? Where do you see yourself in 5 years or 7 years? And I have, well, touch wood, I have the people who I started my firm with 8 years ago still with me today. And they've been there, since day one, and they've grown a lot. I can't give any names, but in principle, I had this conversation with somebody who's been a part of my firm since day one, and I said at that time, what would you like to do with your life? And he said, eventually I want to be running my own furniture business, and I want all the top guys to buy from me, and I want to become the best procurement person in the world. This was his interview with me back in 2016. And he's still working with me today, and I think he's about 75% or 80% there. It'll probably take him another 2 years to get to where he wants to, but it's very important to recognize the value that the employee wants from the employer during their period of time out here. I mean, paying, yes, one very important thing, because living in Bombay, everyone knows costs are extremely high and, stuff like that. But I would say, and then there's a flip side to it, where I had two people who left the organization. One was 4 years ago and one was about 2 years ago, who thought that they can do what I did very easily, and they fell flat on their face. They're not getting enough work. They probably got one project in like 3.5 years, and the person called me and said, can I come back? And I said, no, because that's your dream, and this struggle is a part of where you want to be. So go through it and experience it, because, hey, even I struggled. Everyone out here struggled when we started. It's not, So another issue that I have is all the fresh talent that's coming in these days. They want a shortcut to getting there. And I'm like, this is going to be like 20 years of excruciating pain, right? Where you want to eventually get to. So if you think that you can buy a guide of Instagram for $39 and then magically the next day you'll become a Bitcoin billionaire, it's not going to happen. You have to slog and work, come here, cry, sleepless nights, X, Y, Z. And that's how you get there, because that's how all of us have done it. And done it is the wrong word. We're still doing it. Everyone out here is still doing it. So that's what I don't like about the new gen. And I mean, I should not be saying this because it's not like I'm that old myself. But I'm talking about people in their 20s, like just out of college, 19, 20, 21, kind of coming in for jobs. They want to get successful so fast, It's like you're only focusing on the whipped cream, but you're not looking at how to bake the whole damn cake. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. And this need for instant validation is getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, I've been in this industry for now 8 years. And I can tell you from 8 years ago to now, when it comes to hiring and stuff like that, I'm noticing this level of impatience, which is crazy, And I don't know, I just find it a bit strange, and it's their own doomsday.
So, taking up from what he's saying, obviously you need the soft skills to manage millennials, right? And millennials are a much maligned, much discussed, demographic, and a lot is being said about their work ethic and about how work is below, work is below the life in the work-life balance situation. And I think one can obviously highlight these issues, but what can we do on a real basis to assimilate, right? Because at the end of the day, as a leader, you have to work with young talent. Young talent, in my opinion, is what drives a firm forward. And you, as a leader, have to assimilate the younger kids. So what are the soft skills that you think a leader needs in order to be able to manage a pool of young people?
So, to add on to what Krish has said, I do definitely agree that instant validation is something that all of us are facing a challenge with. And, to add that, the social media, I mean, fortunately, unfortunately, has also played a major role, a very major role in the fact that today there isn't a distinction between designer and people who are more of Instagram influencers. There needs to be that distinct difference, and unfortunately most of the new gen, they don't understand that. For us, whoever are the old school, more than the destination, it's been the journey. And it's the journey that has made us reach where we are today, because we had the fire in our belly and we wanted to learn. Today, a reel can be created out of nothing and you still have thousands of followers. So that validation factor has misled the younger generation into thinking, like he said, that they think that they can do what we can do. Because things do look fabulous on screen. It's how you put it together. You get somebody who knows the P's and Q's of social media and they are able to do a fabulous reel and it's reaching people, and the feedback that you get makes you realize that this is an easy job. It isn't.
Basically, I can add on this. There is a information and knowledge, very thin line. So what the people are getting now then on the social media, this information. Knowledge comes with the experience only, I feel. Because if you have process, I totally agree with her process. You have a good time. How I always tell people, like, you give a 3 years new generation come to the interview. I always ask them how many years studied. Some people say 2 years, some 3 years, or 4 years. I said you give them 4 years. Basic 10% you learn in the college, but 90% you learn in the real college, which is a professor. So I always say, give me 4 years, you'll be perfect. Then you decide what you want to do in life.
And what do they say?
Some people who want to stuck there and they're doing very well. So I'm saying
it's their
that
journey,
very
end of
important
the day.
actually.
It's their journey. I mean, if somebody has decided that after 1 year or 2 years, they think, even if how bright they are, how passionate they are, they think they want to, it's an easy game to play. It's their journey.
So, to some extent, we are all a subject, we are all the product of some amount of influence. For instance, if we look back at architectural history, the Corbusiers and the Mies van der Rohes and the Frank Lloyd Wrights of the world were excellent communicators of what they were doing, right? And so they were the ones writing books and making posters and making art and making sure their work was transmitted, right? Mies, in his latter years, probably built 8 to 10 significant buildings, but left such an outsized influence because of his communication abilities, right? The fact that he was seen as somebody who stood for something. So I think one can't fully discount the power of communicating in media, and because we have also been influenced by it. But before you answer that, I just want to go back to him, and we will round this up before we get into the questions. What is the...
Can I give you my opinion on this? Yeah. I have a completely different, you can say an antithesis on what the three of you have just said, very honestly. I think the length of the generation is increasing. So 100 years ago, a generation used to be 22 years, now it's becoming 27 years. It's shifting. The past 2 generations, the amount of influence and conditioning parents and family are giving a kid has reduced, and what education system is giving a kid has tremendously increased. Now, all these kids that are coming to us, they are all product of an education system, because they were all born with the same amount of conditioning. The conditioning has caused them to be what they are, and they did not condition it, we conditioned it. It's as simple as that. Now, if you try and understand the conditioning, if you try and understand this aspect of instant gratification, this instant gratification, this process is a part of their conditioning, and it is now percolating to the generation above. So we were not conditioned to instant gratification, but now it is percolating to us, and that is the result why now you see all of you also have pages on Instagram, right? We just feel that the system that has existed in the past is the right way to do it. There is nothing right and wrong. That is one way of doing it, and we should not negate it. Only collision of system of the future and the past is going to be able to take it forward. I'll give you a small example. We have a process. We design something on 2D. I use tracing paper. We develop it, we do this, we do that. We do a white model, we start analyzing volumes, we do this, that, and then there was a boy who came to me some time back and he said, sir, let me do it for you on another software with some assistance. And I was like, bullshit. I was like, chal tu try kar le. And the result was quite amazing. And I'm not saying that the result was only rendered result. The result was resolved result. And I learned something that day. And I learned it because in my mind, I already knew that I will resolve this after discussing it with the senior structural consultant, which will take 10 days, 12 days, but it actually got resolved in 2 days because there was a system to do it where you could get it immediately, which I did not know. So I feel that it is extremely important for the younger generation to start understanding the older generation, understand the value system, also know what their value system is. So right now, they are slightly myopic. That's also because their conditioning is very limited.
And they're young.
And they are young. And I think there is much more responsibility on us to understand them. Yes. And if we understand them and we can balance out, suggest, advise, I think we can tap some very good, unseen values from these kids. Because they're not to be blamed. They were not born devils or something.
We're not blaming.
So
that's where mentorship, I think, comes into play with all of us. Yeah. I mean, it's how we mentor, but then there are two sides to a coin, and it's equal participation. You can mentor as much as you want, but it has to be an appreciation and a reflection of who they want to be, whether it's 2 years, 4 years down the line, where they themselves see. And definitely, I agree with you in terms of processes, they are way ahead of where we were.
But Rupesh's point is so valid. Information and knowledge, and thank you for this. It's such a simple thing. How does your own mind analyze the information that you have, process it to be able to have your own opinion rather than reading somebody's opinion and stating it out somewhere else? I think, yeah. And I think there is a certain amount of experience, exposure, which they should be patient enough to develop. Yeah.
Patience is important, actually.
Patience, yeah. Patience,
yes.
guys. Yeah.
So I'm conscious of the time and we have only a few minutes left, and I promised that, I would have enough time for a few questions. So if there are any questions out there, you can put up your hand. Otherwise, I have 2 more lined up and then we can conclude the session. So if you do have a question, do put up your hand. I have a question, again, this is for the whole panel. What is the one thing besides creativity that you think is essential for being an entrepreneur in the field of design? Besides creativity, let's assume you're all got there. And let's start with you.
I think other than creativity, I would say in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to kind of recognize what value you're creating for your customer and how you can innovate and disrupt towards giving them phenomenally more value in a lesser amount of time or a different kind of experience. Because I think ultimately your customer is the end goal, and how are you adding value to their life? Are you actually changing the way they live? Are you improving it? I think that's very important in interiors. So I think that's a very essential thing to have.
Okay, so empathy about the other person's condition, right? And not just your vision of it, right?
I think what I understand that apart from creativity, you need to know, psychologically you should know how to handle a client, how to handle people. That's important, most important thing, you have become a good entrepreneur. If you understand that, you're successful.
You need to be a psychologist.
In a way,
Psychotherapist.
In a way, I think everybody here sitting here, we have to understand each and every person whom you're working for. You have to understand their mindset, what they're looking at. Every single family member. So without that, you cannot convince your thought process, your ideas, your creativity. So I feel, this is my experience, that's a very important thing. You have to understand. That comes with the experience only, practice only. Yeah.
We're also all certified marriage counselors at this point.
So vision, integrity, and definitely I think our entire time that we work, I think 20% of the time is when we are designing, 80% we are all therapists, unpaid therapists. And that's we pretty much do that, apart from trying to figure out what the husband wants, what the wife wants, what the rest of the family wants. Reading their mind, not only reading their mind, trying to figure out challenges with the PMC, with the rest of the entire team working together. So it's not just in isolation that it's us and the client. There is an entire team that has to be taken into account when you're doing a project. So it's hugely about people skills and how you manage that, keeping your sanity also intact.
Rudraksh?
So all points agreed. I personally live by a very simple aspect, and it has evolved in the past couple of years, but more or less it's similar. I feel I need to be fair towards my employees and my clients and my project. And now I have also started demanding that my project is fair to me, and my client is fair to me, and my employee is fair to me. And I think that is extremely important to being a successful businessman.
So to be demanding to the project, can you elaborate a little bit?
So, I have a certain skill set, okay, and if I'm not the right person for the project, then I should not be doing that project. If I have a certain skill set, and if the project does not deserve me, then I should not be doing the project either.
So I'm just going to ask, you have a question. So can we please get a mic to the lady in the second row?
Do you play cricket?
Hi, I'm Geeta Arya. Being a principal architect, I feel that when we are scaling our office, so we have issue of giving time to different projects. So I realized that we should create a cloning format, develop staff in our team who are thinking like you train them. And then there is a fear that they'll be moving out, the way the cycle is. So how to balance that we are increasing our scale, as well as we are conscious about our design skills, and our skill set is with us only. So we are not mushrooming different principles from our same organization. So how fair I am on this, I want to understand.
Are you scared that they will cannibalize you?
No, I'm more interested in scaling myself, scaling my practice.
You are scaling the architectural fraternity.
Yes.
If you're cloning yourself and creating good architects, and they're going out and creating better practices, so at the overall good of the practice is anyway happening. And if you're doing that enough, I think there will be some people who will respect you so dearly that they will stick around with you for probably the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that's true.
So, just for something that will give you a sort of relief when you're trying to manage too many projects, is invest heavily in a task management application. invest heavily in a project management application, systemize your workflows completely, bifurcate, and track it like that. If you're more organized and you have more structure, scaling should be easier. I know we all start organic, and then as you get more and more work, you're like, oh damn, I need systems. Put your systems in, it'll give you immediate relief.
Thanks a lot to both of you.
So we have one more question there. Can you please?
Hello, hi. It's regarding retaining and hiring. I belong to a two-tier city, Bhubaneswar, Odisha. So it's been 7 years. I have my own firm over there, and with a good number of quality projects. So as Chris said, I have a good teammates with over 4 to 5 years experience. But the hard part right now is we want to hire more people. But the moment we want to hire among the cities, they want to go to the metro and explore more. So how to hire and retain in a two-tier city with a good quality of projects?
Rupesh, you want to take that? I think the question was that when you retain, how do you retain somebody who wants to go and work in a larger city once you've trained them?
Sorry.
How do you retain an employee who wants to go work in a larger city once you have trained them?
So I'm facing difficulty to hiring also. Sometimes I feel, should we open a studio in a metro city just to retain our projects?
Yes, you should. In a word. So let me just, I think we're out of time, and I want to just end this on a lighter note by going around the panel and asking them whether they're a good boss and what makes you a good boss. Why don't we start with you? And don't spin it, huh? Be real.
I don't know if I'm a good boss. I'll have to ask my team that, but they'll never ever tell me the truth. But all I can say is I'm a very fair person in the workplace. And I'm very, very clear that you have 20 deliverables that you've set for yourself in a week, and this is how much you have to achieve. If you don't achieve it, then let's sit and have a review as to why you're not being able to do it. So for me, it's about constant improvement. I take a very analytical approach to all my team members, and for me, it's just tasks on a board that have to get done in a particular way. So I approach work in a very systemized manner. But good boss or bad boss is a very relative question.
So you think you're a good boss because you're very systematic?
I think I'm a very effective boss to the company. I don't know whether I'm good or bad.
Okay, Rupesh.
I don't know, that question asked my employee, I don't know. But yeah, I normally take care of all the people, professionally and emotionally both way. And because most of the people like city come from outside, we have more than 50% people from out of Bombay. So I feel they're happy, that's why their people are there for 10 years, 8 years, and 6 years. So good time for a city like Bombay.
So we'll give Amrita the last word, why don't you?
I think people in my studio who've been there for more than 2 years think I am a good boss. People who've not survived 2 years, they think they're terrified of me. So, yeah, I think that's what it is.
So I feel in a workspace, one is the work culture and how you evolve, and there is the empathy and the emotional aspect that is attached because when you are with them almost 10 hours, 12 hours a day, and that plays a major role because they look up to you as a guide in terms of their personal challenges, in terms of professionally, and it's how our response is towards that, because we've had people who've been with us for almost 2 decades. We've had people going, they've got married, they've gone and had children, they've come back, and we always encourage a work-life balance. For us, that has been always the key, that if you encourage a work-life balance, or if there are challenges, and if you are ready to talk about it, the most important aspect is that conversation. If they think the doors are closed and you can never have a conversation, and that is the end of building up a good team. So if your doors are always open and if you feel that anybody can walk in, knock and say that I want to have a chat. It could be about anything. That is the key to building up a great team who will always be there with you.
So thank you, and thank you all for your patience. I think one of the key takeaways, for me at least, is that the key to running a successful organization as a design practice beyond creativity is investing in people and, like she said, being empathetic towards their needs. So we'll conclude at this. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a huge round of applause.